I went to help my friend move, but then her sister appeared and everything changed instantly. The cardboard boxes I'd hauled up 3 flights of stairs in that sweltering Granada heat suddenly felt like anchors, pinning me to the worn terracotta tiles of Lydia's new apartment. "Jamie, you didn't have to do all this," Lydia laughed, wiping sweat from her brow with the back of her hand, her ponytail swinging like a metronome as she directed me toward the kitchen. But I barely heard her. There, framed in the doorway like a mirage from some old Hollywood romance, stood Brielle, Lydia's older sister, the one I'd only heard stories about, the one who'd vanished to Barcelona years ago chasing art gallery dreams and leaving a trail of broken hearts in her wake. She was taller than I imagined, her dark curls cascading over one shoulder, catching the late afternoon sun filtering through the balcony shutters. Her eyes, a deep mahogany that seemed to hold secrets from the Sierra Nevada mountains themselves, locked onto mine with an intensity that made the air thicken. "You must be the famous Jamie," she said, her voice a low, velvety drawl with just enough American twang to remind me we were both expats far from the Jersey shores we'd left behind. I was 28, fresh off a freelance graphic design gig that had stranded me in Spain for just a year, now pushing 2. Lydia, my best friend since we bonded over bad sangria at a Seville dive bar, had dragged me into this moving chaos as payback for all the nights I'd crashed on her couch. But Brielle. She wasn't part of the plan. The afternoon blurred into a haze of unpacking, Lydia blasting Fleetwood Mac from a portable speaker while I stacked plates and dodged the occasional flying sock. Brielle lingered on the edges, her presence like a shadow that danced just out of reach. She'd flown in from Barcelona that morning, she explained over lukewarm cokes on the balcony, to help settle the family nest. Lydia rolled her eyes. "As if you know anything about nesting, Brie. Last I checked, your life's one big hotel lobby." There was an edge to it, a sibling jab honed by years of Lydia playing the responsible one while Brielle flitted like a moth toward brighter flames. I chuckled, but my gaze kept drifting to Brielle, to the way her fingers traced the iron railing, nails painted a chipped crimson that matched the bougainvillea spilling over the edge. By evening, the apartment transformed from chaos to something resembling home. We collapsed onto mismatched cushions in the living room, takeout paella steaming on the coffee table, the kind with too much saffron and not enough shrimp. Lydia, ever the storyteller, launched into tales of our misadventures, that time we got lost in the Alpujarras hiking trails, or the flamenco class where I tripped over my own feet and ended up with a sprained ankle. Brielle listened, her laughter soft and genuine, but her eyes on me felt like questions I wasn't ready to answer. "So, Jamie," she said finally, leaning forward, elbows on knees, "what's a girl like you doing in a place like this? Chasing bullfights or just the wine?" Her smile was crooked, inviting, and damn if it didn't stir something dormant in my chest, a flutter I hadn't felt since college crushes faded into Tinder swipes. I shrugged, playing it cool. "Bit of both." Lydia promised me endless tapas and 0 regrets. But inside, my pulse hammered. Brielle was 29, a painter whose canvases hung in galleries from Madrid to Marbella, her life a whirlwind of exhibits and fleeting affairs. Lydia had warned me once, over coffee in Malaga, "Breeze a storm, Jamie. Beautiful, but she'll leave you soaked and shivering." I nodded then, but now, with her knee brushing mine accidentally, or was it, I wondered if I wanted to get caught in the rain. The first crack appeared the next morning. I'd crashed on the pull-out couch, woken by the scent of fresh churros from the bakery downstairs. Lydia was already at her new job, some admin gig at the Alhambra ticket office, leaving me and Brielle to finish the last boxes. We worked in companionable silence at first, the kind that hums with possibility. She hummed an old Joan Baez tune as she folded linens, her voice weaving through the sunbeams slanting across the floor. I caught myself staring at the curve of her neck, the way sunlight gilded her skin like one of her own paintings. "Earth to Jamie," she teased, tossing a pillow at me. It hit my shoulder, and I lobbed it back, laughter bubbling up unbidden. That's when she told me about Elena. "My ex," she said casually, as if discussing the weather, while taping shut a box of art supplies. "We broke it off last month. She wanted the white picket fence in the suburbs, I wanted this." She gestured vaguely at the apartment, at Spain, at the intangible pull of creation over convention. Her voice cracked on the last word, and I saw it then, the vulnerability beneath the artist's bravado. Elena, the architect from Valencia, the one who proposed with a ring forged from recycled steel, only for Brielle to say no because love shouldn't feel like a blueprint. I wanted to ask more, to probe the wounds, but instead I offered, sounds like she didn't see the masterpiece right in front of her. Brielle's gaze softened, holding mine a beat too long. And you? Anyone waiting back home, or are you flying solo like the rest of us gypsies? I hesitated. Home was a loaded word, a Jersey townhouse shared with my sister, a string of dates that fizzled like cheap fireworks. Solo, I admitted. Always have been. It wasn't the whole truth. There'd been Sarah in college, the poet who left me for a writer's retreat in Vermont, whispering that I was too steady for her chaos. But Brielle didn't need my baggage. Not yet. We ventured out that afternoon, Lydia texting us to pick up groceries from the Mercado de San Agustin. Granada's streets pulsed with life, vendors hawking spices, gypsy guitars strumming in shadowed alleys, the air thick with olive oil and jasmine. Brielle led the way, her stride confident, pointing out hidden patios where poets once whispered verses. At a stall piled high with figs and almonds, she haggled in flawless Spanish, her laughter drawing me in like a tide. Our hands brushed as she passed me a paper bag, and electricity sparked, subtle, undeniable. Your trouble, I murmured, half to myself. She winked. Only the good kind. Back at the apartment, as we unpacked produce onto the counter, the moment stretched. She peeled an orange, sections falling like petals, juice staining her fingers. I watched, mesmerized, until she held out a slice. Try it, she said, her voice husky. Our fingers touched, lingering, and in that suspended breath, I leaned in. Our lips met softly, tentatively, a brush of warmth that tasted of citrus and promise. It was chaste, a whisper of what could be, but it ignited something fierce. She pulled back first, eyes searching mine. Jamie. But the word dissolved into another kiss, deeper this time, her hand cupping my cheek as if I were fragile porcelain. We broke apart at the sound of Lydia's key in the door, hearts racing, secrets sealed. That night, over dinner, Lydia oblivious, chattering about ticket line drama, Brielle's foot nudged mine under the table. A silent vow. The move was done, but something new had just begun, fragile as the first bloom after winter rain. Days bled into weeks, Granada's rhythm wrapping around us like a rebozo shawl. Lydia settled into her routine, dragging me to tapas bars where we dissect the day's absurdities over albondigas and vermouth. But Brielle stayed on, her Barcelona return postponed indefinitely, citing inspiration from the Alhambra's ghosts. We stole moments, a walk through the Albayacin's whitewashed lanes at twilight, her arm linked in mine, a quiet afternoon in her borrowed studio space, where she painted while I sketched logos on my laptop, our worlds overlapping in stolen glances. It felt like fate, or at least the kind of serendipity Americans chase in Europe, two women adrift, finding harbor in each other. Brielle opened up in fragments, her childhood in a sleepy New Jersey suburb, summers at the shore where she'd sketch waves instead of swimming, the scholarship to art school that pulled her across the Atlantic, only for her parents' divorce to tether her to wanderlust. I run because staying hurts, she confessed one evening, as we sat on the Sacramento Hill, city lights twinkling below like fallen stars. I shared my own scars, the freelance hustle that masked a fear of roots, the way Sarah's goodbye letter still lived in my email drafts. We're both runners, I said, lacing my fingers through hers. She squeezed back. Maybe it's time to walk together. Lydia noticed, of course. You two are like magnets, she teased over coffee one morning, her eyes twinkling with that big sister knowing. Just don't break her heart, Brie. Jamie's the best thing that's happened to me since landing here. Brielle's smile faltered, a shadow crossing her face, but she brushed it off with a joke about sibling espionage. I let it go, too wrapped in the glow of us, the way Brielle's laugh lit rooms, how she'd leave wildflower sketches on my pillow, notes scrawled in looping script, for the girl who colors my gray. But shadows lengthen before storms. It started with a phone call, late one night. I woke to Brielle's voice in the kitchen, hushed and urgent. "Elena, please. It's not that simple." My stomach twisted. She hung up, spotting me in the doorway, her face a mask of exhaustion. "Old wounds," she said, pulling me close. But the lie lingered, acrid as burnt espresso. The next day, she vanished for hours, returning with paint-smeared hands and excuses about a last-minute commission. I nodded, but doubt seeded, tiny, insidious. The Alhambra became our sanctuary, that sprawling fortress of red sandstone and whispered histories where time bent like light through arabesque windows. We'd sneak in after closing, Lydia's perk as an employee, wandering the Nasrid palaces hand in hand, the air heavy with rosewater and echoes of long-gone sultans. Brielle would trace the filigreed stucco with her fingertips, murmuring about patterns that hold the weight of forgotten loves. I'd tease her for turning history into poetry, but secretly, I cherished it, the way she saw beauty in fractures, mending my own with her gaze. One humid July evening, as thunderheads gathered over the Sierra Nevada, we climbed to the General Life Gardens. The air buzzed with cicadas, the sky bruising purple. We found a secluded pergola draped in vines, the fountains trickle a soft counterpoint to our breaths. "I could stay here forever," Brielle said, leaning against me, her head on my shoulder. Her scent, lavender and turpentine, wrapped around us like a spell. I turned, cupping her face, and kissed her under the gathering storm. It was our deepest yet, a slow unraveling of guards, tongues tentative but true. No rush, no heat beyond the heart's quiet fire, just connection, pure as the water pooling at our feet. Rain broke then, sudden and biblical, soaking us in sheets. We laughed, running for cover, but in the downpour, something shifted. She stopped, pulling me back into the deluge. "Jamie, words failed. Instead, she kissed me again, fierce and desperate, as if the storm could wash away her fears. We made it to a stone bench under an arch, drenched and shivering, wrapped in each other's arms. "I love you," I whispered, the words escaping like breath on glass. Her eyes widened, then softened. "I think I'm falling, too." We stayed like that until lightning cracked the sky, a vow sealed in water and wonder. But love, like Granada's summers, turns scorching before it cools. Elena's calls persisted, late-night pings that lit Brielle's phone like accusations. I'd pretend sleep, heart pounding as she slipped from bed to murmur apologies into the dark. "It's nothing," she'd insist come morning, over café con leche and churros. But the distance grew, a chasm widening with each evasion. Lydia cornered me one afternoon in her office, amid stacks of tour brochures. "What's going on with you two? Brie looks like she's carrying the world's weight." I deflected, blaming work stress, but guilt gnawed. Lydia deserved better than my half-truths. The betrayal brewed slowly, a poison in the well. It erupted at the Feria de Agosto, Granada's August fair, a riot of lanterns, casetas thumping with Belarius, the air thick with grilled sardines and sweat. Lydia insisted we go as a trio, a girls' night out, to shake off the heat. Brielle agreed reluctantly, her mood frayed like the fairground banners snapping in the breeze. We danced in the crowded plazas, Lydia whirling me into spins while Brielle watched from the sidelines, a glass of Tinto de Verano clutched like a lifeline. Then Elena appeared. She materialized from the throng like a specter, tall, poised, her blonde bob impeccable even in the humidity, dressed in a crisp white blouse that screamed Barcelona sophistication. "Brie," she said, voice cutting through the guitar strums, her hand on Brielle's arm possessive as a claim. Brielle froze, color draining from her face. Lydia and I exchanged glances, the music souring. "Elena. What are you?" Brielle stammered, but Elena's smile was a blade. "Surprise. I came to talk. For us." The cassette emptied around us, or so it felt, as Elena laid it bare, the reconciliation texts, the promises Brielle had whispered in secret calls, the one last chance she'd begged for behind my back. She said it was a mistake, Elena continued, eyes flicking to me with pity that stung worse than scorn. That you were temporary. A Granada fling. Brielle's mouth opened, closed, no denial forthcoming. The world tilted, flamenco claps mocking my nausea, laughter from strangers a cruel chorus. Lydia exploded first. You selfish bitch, she hissed at her sister, grabbing my arm to pull me away. After everything, after Mom and Dad, after I dragged you here to start over. Brielle reached for us, tears mingling with sweat. Jamie, wait, it's not, but I wrenched free, storming into the night, the fair's lights blurring through hot tears. Temporary. The word echoed like a death knell, unraveling the fragile tapestry we'd woven. I wandered the labyrinthine streets until dawn, feet aching on cobblestones, ending up at the Mirador de San Nicolas with its postcard view of the Alhambra aglow against the fading stars. Exhaustion claimed me there, slumped against a wall, sobs racking until I was hollow. Lydia found me at sunrise, her face etched with fury and sorrow. She's gone back to Barcelona, she said flatly, handing me a thermos of coffee. Left a note. Said she was protecting you from her mess. I laughed bitterly, the sound foreign in my throat. Protecting. It felt like vivisection. The days that followed were a fog of rote survival. I threw myself into work, design pitches emailed to New York clients, late nights at Lydia's kitchen table sketching logos that bled into abstracts of shattered arches. Lydia mothered me fiercely, stocking the fridge with my favorite manchego, forcing walks along the Darro River where willows wept in sympathy. You're stronger than this, she'd say, linking arms as we fed crumbs to carp in the shallows. And Brie. She's always been her own worst enemy. I nodded, but grief clung like Granada's summer dust, suffocating, unrelenting. Brielle's absence was a ghost in every corner, a forgotten sketch in a drawer, the faint lavender on the couch cushions. I'd replay our moments, the general life kiss, her fingers in mine on sacrament, not for masochism, but to understand the fracture. Was it Elena's pull, that magnetic regret of what-ifs? Or Brielle's terror of permanence, the way love demanded she confront the runner within? Letters arrived, scrawled and frantic, I panicked. You were too real, Jamie. Forgive me. I burned them in the sink, flames dancing like fairground lanterns, ashes swirling down the drain. Conflict simmered between the sisters too. Lydia raged in voicemails left unheard, accusations of abandonment echoing their fractured childhood, Brielle fleeing Dad's alcoholism for art school, leaving Lydia to hold the fort. She does this, Lydia confided one night, over too much Rioja on the balcony. Leaves destruction in her wake, calls it inspiration. I ached for them both, the web of blood and choice that bound tighter than any romance. Yet resentment festered, I'd catch myself snapping at Lydia for small things, a misplaced mug, a too cheerful greeting, as if her proximity amplified the void. Autumn crept in, leaves turning gold on the plane trees, the air crisping with promise of rain. I forced reinvention, solo hikes in the Los Cajoros Gorge, where hanging bridges swayed over turquoise rivers, mirroring my unsteady heart. There, amid ferns and falcons, I journaled, pages filled with raw pleas. Why her? Why now? The answers eluded, but the act soothed, stitching wounds with ink. Lydia joined sometimes, our friendship a buoy in the undertow. You're blooming again, she noted one crisp October day, as we picnicked on Aussie tunas and bread. I smiled faintly. Or just surviving the frost. Then, the high tide of reckoning, a package arrived, unmarked but unmistakable, Brielle's handwriting on the label. Inside, a canvas, rolled tight, the Alhambra at dusk, but reimagined, courtyards alive with ethereal figures, two women entwined under fountains, their forms blurred yet intimate, painted in strokes of longing and loss. Tucked in the folds, a letter, this is us, unfinished. I was wrong to run. Come to Barcelona. Or let me come to you. B. My hands trembled, paint flaking like old skin. Fury warred with yearning, the betrayal sting fresh, yet softened by memory's balm. Lydia found me staring at it, her jaw set. Don't, she warned. She'll break you again. But her eyes held doubt, the love for her sister a crack in the armor. I folded the letter, the choice a stone in my pocket, heavy, unyielding. Winter descended on Granada like a sigh, snow dusting the Alhambra's minarets in rare, fleeting white, turning the city into a hush of contemplation. Christmas markets bloomed in Plaza Nueva, stalls aglow with twinkling lights, vendors hawking Turin and mulled wine, carols mingling with Andalusian guitars. Lydia and I immersed in the festivity, stringing lights in the apartment, baking polverons that crumbled like resolutions. To new beginnings, she toasted on Noche Buena, clinking glasses amid a feast of gambas al ajillo and laughter that felt almost healed. Almost. But Brielle's canvas haunted the studio corner, a sentinel of what-ifs. I'd catch Lydia glancing at it, her expression a tangle of protectiveness and ache. She called, she admitted one foggy morning, as we sipped hot chocolate in a cafe overlooking the cathedral. Begging forgiveness. Says Elena's a crutch, not a choice. My chest tightened, relief warring with wariness. And you? I asked. Lydia shrugged, stirring her foam. Blood's thicker than pride. But you're my family too, Jamie. Whatever you decide. The decision crystallized on a sleeting January eve. I'd taken to solitary vigils at the Alhambra, Lydia's pass a quiet gift, wandering the empty halls where echoes amplified solitude. That night, as flurries swirled against the lattice windows, Brielle was there, unannounced, a silhouette in the Court of the Lions, her coat dusted white, eyes shadowed with travel's toll. I couldn't stay away, she said, voice breaking the silence like a dropped tile. I froze, pulse thundering against the stone walls. You shouldn't be here. She stepped closer, breath clouding in the chill. I know. I lied, I ran, because loving you meant facing myself. Elena was safe, predictable. You're the storm I crave. Tears traced her cheeks, freezing in tiny crystals. The air crackled, anger, desire, the raw edge of truth. You called me temporary, I hurled, voice echoing off the arches. A fling to pass the time. She winced, reaching for my hand. I let her take it, the warmth a betrayal of my resolve. I was scared, she whispered. Of failing you, like I failed everyone. But this, us, it's the truest thing I've painted. We stood there, lions frozen in eternal guard, as the storm raged outside. Words tumbled, my hurts laid bare, her regrets a litany of self-sabotage. The betrayal scar tissue tore open, but beneath pulsed forgiveness, tentative as first light. I can't promise perfection, she said finally, thumb brushing my knuckles. But I can promise to try. With you. I searched her face, the familiar planes softened by vulnerability, and saw not the runner, but the woman who'd sketched my soul in secret colors. Lydia waited at home, the apartment aglow with candles, her tension easing into cautious hope as we walked in together, hands linked. Talk, she commanded over herbal tea, her gaze shuttling between us. We did, hours unraveling threads, weaving anew. Lydia's forgiveness came grudgingly, laced with boundaries. Hurt her again, Brie, and you're out. Family or not? Brielle nodded, tears flowing free. I deserve that. And more. By dawn, the three of us huddled on the couch, a fragile triad mending, sisters reclaiming, love reclaiming space. Spring unfurled in hesitant greens, Granada awakening with almond blossoms veiling the streets in pink. Brielle stayed, her Barcelona life folded into storage, a joint exhibit planned for summer, our stories intertwined on canvas and code. We built slowly, mornings sketching side by side, her brush my muse, evenings cooking paella with Lydia, arguments dissolving into inside jokes. Conflicts lingered, Brielle's wanderlust flaring in quiet doubts, my trusted garden needing tending, but we faced them, voices raised then hushed, hands finding anchors. The climax came unbidden, a echo of the fair's fracture. Elena arrived in May, uninvited, at Brielle's gallery opening in the Albaicin, a space alive with patrons sipping cava, walls ablaze with our shared visions, Alhambra nights, rain-kissed embraces, women emerging from shadows whole. Elena cornered Brielle in an alcove, her voice a silken plea, "This life's a dream, Brie. Come back to reality, with me." I overheard, heart seizing, the old wound throbbing. But Brielle turned, steady as the minarets. "Reality is here," she said, loud enough for heads to turn. "With Jamie. With family." Elena's face crumpled, defeat, not venom, and she left without a scene, the door clicking shut like closure. The crowd applauded the works, but our eyes met across the room, a silent triumph. Later, on the rooftop terrace under star-pricked skies, Brielle pulled me close. "No more running," she vowed, forehead to mine. "We're the story now." I believed her, not blindly, but with the hard-won faith of survivors. Summer swelled, heat waves shimmering off the pavement, but our rhythm held. Lydia found a girlfriend, a botanist named Sophia, with a laugh like church bells, expanding our circle into something fuller, a chosen tribe amid the olive groves. We traveled light, a weekend in Ronda's Gorges, where mist clung to cliffs like secrets released, quiet days in the Costa Tropical, toes in surf, Brielle's head on my lap as waves whispered absolution. The humanistic thread wove through it all, not perfection, but persistence. Brielle's art deepened, infused with vulnerability's grit, my designs bloomed bolder, laced with her wild hues. We volunteered at local shelters, teaching art to refugee kids, tiny hands smudging colors, faces lighting with possibility, reminders that love, like Granada's layered histories, builds on ruins. Betrayal's ghost visited in nightmares, but morning light chased it, Brielle's arms a bulwark. One golden September dusk, we returned to the general life, the site of our storm-born vow. The gardens thrummed with cicadas' farewell, fountains singing eternal. Brielle knelt by the water, producing a small velvet pouch. "Not a ring," she said, spilling a delicate silver chain with a pendant, 2 interlocking arches, forged in Toledo. "A promise. To walk, not run." Tears pricked as I fastened it, her fingers lingering at my nape. "And if we stumble?" I asked. She smiled, that crooked beacon. "We rise. Together." We kissed then, under the pergola's embrace, soft, enduring, a seal on scars transmuted to strength. Lydia waited below, arms open, the three of us descending into twilight's glow. Life in Spain, with its siestas and sorrows, its fiestas and fractures, had remade us, not into flawless heroines, but women who chose connection over flight. In the Alhambra's shadow, we carried on, human, flawed, achingly alive. As the stars wheeled overhead, I thought of that first chaotic move, the boxes, and the sister who upended everything. Changed instantly. Yes. But for the better, in ways only time's patient hand reveals. And in that revelation, grace.